I told y'all I wasn't watching that mess. And I told y'all to save your energy and your ears and your time and your well being and not to watch that shit. Because we can watch the clips afterwards. I do not have that man come into my house on my television. It is enough that there are days when I have to run through clips. I do not need to be lied to for over 90 minutes by a pedophile. Okay? I do not need to give that man my energy and my time. We will review what was done and what was said that's worth covering, but more importantly, what I think is very interesting is that the day after Donald Trump's longest rambling bullshit state of the disunion that we are in, more heads are rolling because of people's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. So while Donald Trump went on a diatribe fueled by his ego and Adderall, other people are losing their status and their positions. And my only hope is that at some time, maybe I won't live to see it, but at some time, maybe y'all won't live to see it, that these same people who are resigning in disgrace will be prosecuted for their crimes against children and this country. Buckle up, dear friends. It is a jam-packed day on the Danielle Moody Show, and it's time to jump in. Hello, damnation, and welcome to the Danielle Moody Show. I am so glad that all of you are here, and I pray that you did not waste your time or your energy on Donald Trump yesterday. You knew what the deal was going to be with the State of the Union. You knew that it was going to look exactly how it did, like a fucking Klan rally in Technicolor. You knew that Donald Trump was going to stand up there after being credibly accused of raping a 13-year-old girl, which his Department of Justice is actively covering up, and NPR and MS Now confirmed just hours before that motherfucker would take and hold on to that podium for dear life so that his cankles would not give out. You knew that he was going to stare into that camera and lie to the American people and spread racism because that is his fuel, that is his energy, baby. And so we begin with this. Thank you to The Guardian. While the longest ever State of the Union address was the most inconsequential, amid Trump's lies and xenophobic rants, people struggling to pay bills and make ends meet are likely to be unmoved. He wanted to give the King's Speech, The Guardian writes. Donald Trump entered the U.S. House chamber on Tuesday like a medieval monarch, with Republicans lined up eager to touch his royal robes, or in two cases, grab a selfie with him. But within moments, the illusion was shattered. As the U.S. president strolled by, soaking up adulation, the Democratic Representative Al Green of Texas held aloft a handwritten sign: "Black people aren't apes," a reference to Trump recently sharing a racist video depiction of Barack and Michelle Obama. When the first State of the Union address of Trump's second term got underway, Republicans moved in on Green menacingly and tried to tear the sign away, but he persisted until being escorted out for the second year in a row. As he departed, there were more acrimonious exchanges with Republicans, a few of whom started to chant USA, USA. The more Trump talked, the less he said. He had gone into the address with an approval rating of 39 positive percentage and 60% negative, according to a Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll, lower than any past president delivering his first State of the Union address. Over an hour and 47 minutes, he offered little to change that equation. The longest State of the Union speech in history was also one of the most inconsequential. It was a small wonder that Omar, Tlaib, and several other Democrats walked out before the end. As for Green, his seat remained empty to save for a handwritten cardboard sign that simply and defiantly said, Al Green. Let me tell you something last night. The beat that I did see was this. Representative Al Green, once again, a man in his 70s, that I said yesterday has always stood 10 toes down for Black people, for justice, for civil rights, and for freedom. This 70-something-year-old man consistently shows the courage that establishment Democrats lack. So when I talk to you about how the old guard need to get out of the way, I'm not talking about the folks that hold activism in their heart and use their platforms and these moments when the cameras are going to be on them to call attention to just how racist and disgusting this regime is. Because you know what everybody was talking about today? They weren't talking about Donald Trump's long-winded xenophobic bullshit speech that moved the needle. Not at all. They were talking about Representative Al Green. They were talking about his defiant stance and just the imagery, folks, the imagery that was conjured of white Republicans trying to bum rush this Black elderly statesman and trying to rip up his sign while chanting USA, USA. If that doesn't look like a relic out of the Jim Crow era that has been resurrected by this regime, folks, then I don't know what does. It looked like the images that I remember seeing as a child in my history books of white mobs spitting on Black children trying to integrate schools, of white mobs standing gleefully as they photograph the mutilated Black bodies that were lynched and hanging from trees. Do you know that white people used to send body parts of Black people from lynchings in the mail like souvenirs to their friends and family? I want you all to know these truths because I want you to hold them with you, that when you see their red, rabid, racist faces trying to tear apart Representative Al Green's sign, is for them trying to do physically what Donald Trump has been trying to do over the last 10 years, which is erase history, erase truth, so that white America never has to confront the mirror that Black people always try and hold up to them. Because what was the action here? Let me run across this aisle to knock over this elderly Black statesman to tear up a sign because they believe it to be true? Al Green wasn't shouting this time. He was literally standing there with a sign. These are the same people that ran for selfies with Donald Trump and patting him on the back as he is responsible for the murders of American citizens. This is the racist that they love. So the sign is just an affront to what? You love this grand wizard. So own it. Don't try and invisibilize the truth of it, that man reposted a racist, vile video of the former Black president and his wife to degrade them during Black History Month, by the way, that this administration has also summarily tried to erase. But lucky for them, Black people understand that our history and our Blackness and our pride is 365 days a year, not just 28. And who else stood up? Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. You have killed Americans, she yelled out, as Donald Trump stood at that podium trying to defame an entire community of people, a community that she is from and represents. That he goes on this racist, disgusting, xenophobic diatribe. Did she lie when she shouted out, "You've killed Americans"? Was that a lie? Absolutely not. Keith Porter, Renee Nicole Good, Alex Preddy, and others that we are learning about. Because I tell you that, folks, for every name that we learn, how many more names and bodies have been buried? That's the truth of this regime, is that we're not actually going to know the depths of their violence and their cruelty and their criminality, folks, until they're gone. And we proceed with a necessary excavation and bringing to light what they tried to do in the darkness. Democratic Representatives Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib repeatedly yelled at Trump, objecting to his characterization of Minnesota's Somali community as pirates and accusing him of enabling the deaths of U.S. citizens through his hardline immigration crackdown in the state. The back and forth crested after Trump told Democrats in the chamber they should be ashamed for refusing to stand and applaud in response to his declaration that the government's primary duty is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. It was a disgrace. And I am thankful and proud of the representatives of color, because you see, they seem to be the only fucking ones that ever stand up. Because I ask, where exactly are their white colleagues? Where are their white colleagues that want to use words like allyship and solidarity, but in moments when they can actually exercise that and put it beyond words into action, where are they? Usually just sitting crouched in their seats, hands folded and eyes straight, willing to throw their own colleagues under the bus and censure them because you should sit quietly and follow the rules while racists and pedophiles yell out the rules of the game to you. Give me a fucking break. You have killed Americans, Omar said. You should be ashamed. But like I continue to say, you can't shame the devil. One of the actual good things about the State of the Union last night had nothing to do with what came out of Donald Trump's mouth, but it had everything to do with the working people's response to Donald Trump's State of the Union. And they chose Representative Summer Lee to provide the rebuttal. And I want to give you all an opportunity to hear that.
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who took on Andrew Cuomo and his corporate backers and won. He led a movement of renters, young people, and working families who had been told their voices did not matter. He proved that when you show up, when you speak clearly about how to meet people's basic needs, the people respond. And now look at New Jersey's newest Democratic nominee, Anna Lilia Mejia. She started her race at 5%. She was outspent 10-1, and she still won because she outworked party bosses and billionaires. And as a former director of the New Jersey Working Families Party, she had a record of delivering, raising the minimum wage, guaranteeing paid sick days, and defending voting rights. And there is more of this to come. Our democracy does not work when big money owns politicians. Americans are sick of a corrupt elite few causing all this harm. And that's why I introduced a bill to abolish the super PACs they use to control our country. The obscenely rich shouldn't be able to call the shots in our democracy, and they shouldn't be able to escape accountability. That's also why I moved to subpoena the DOJ to release the full, unredacted Epstein files back in July. I know what it feels like to be targeted by billionaires, to face attack ads and smear campaigns meant to silence you. It was demoralizing and exhausting. It was also a waste of their money because our movement won, and we have to keep winning. Because when we have progressives in Congress, we get legislation that meets the moment. We get people who fight for accountability and justice. We get opportunities to do the right thing.
When we have progressives in Congress, we get the opportunity to do the right thing. The other thing that Representative Summer Lee talked about in her response and rebuttal was challenging corporate Democrats to stop taking corporate money, to do away with the super PACs, as she just said, that have damaged and silenced the voice of Americans in favor of corporations and billionaires. You see, we know that right now, that kind of legislation is not going to get the support that it needs because you see, then you would be taking money out of the pockets of the people that are so comfortable with the status quo because it keeps them fed, while the rest of us are crawling around on the floor looking for crumbs. You see, we need to clean house. Not just the House of Representatives and flipping it to Democrat, but making sure that the Democrats that actually do show up are the ones that we can trust and believe in to do the work to change the system that has been rigged against us. You see, I am not afraid to call out the Democratic establishment. I am not afraid to continue to say that it took two groups to get us here. It isn't just Republicans to blame because they're going to be who they are. They show their ass all the time. But it is also, as I said earlier today, with Jared Yates Sexton on the Damn Digest. He said, what choices do we have? It is a false choice between the devil and the devil's enabler. And that is exactly the choice that we have been presented with this frail two-party system. The devil being the Republicans and the devil's enablers being the Democrats. You don't just get Donald Trump overnight, folks. That's something that is created by the Supreme Court, by those that stood by the Hakeem Jeffries and the Chuck Schumers of the world that think that they can solve the monster's problem by just admonishing him, as opposed to abolishing him. That being said, I chose not to watch the speech last night, if you can call it a speech. I chose not to subject myself to it because after the news broke of what we have long believed, that this DOJ is covering up for this pedophile president, I could not stand there watching as this man who deserves to be under a jail sits comfortably in the seat of power, knowing that he is an abuser. On top of which, news also broke today by Lisa Rubin over at MS Now, reporting that the DOJ directed reviewers to flag FBI interview memos before it produced the latest Epstein files. That follows MS Now reporting that the DOJ appears to have withheld memos on 3 interviews with a woman who accused Epstein and Trump of assault. So, how does that work exactly? Because apparently, the transparency law that Donald Trump begrudgingly signed into law said he was required by the federal court to release all the files, not to cherry pick what they were going to decide to release because they didn't want to harm their boss, because the DOJ is nothing more than a group of supposed lawyers that are protecting the pedophile class. Thank goodness for NPR and MS Now for doing the investigative work that the Department of Justice was hoping that no one would get to when they flooded the zone. I want you to take a listen to, and let me see if I can find it. I want you to take a listen to an interview that has been unearthed that Donald Trump did back in 2006 on Howard Stern's show, which he used to go on often. And just take a listen to what he said, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Best thing about being Donald Trump right now?
Well, other than the fact I'm married, okay?
Right.
And I'm very happily married. I have a great wife. But if I weren't married, I'd be able to get all of the girls I want, except for possibly Robin.
Do you think you could now be banging 24-year-olds?
Oh, absolutely. I have no trouble.
Would you do it?
I have no problem.
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you...
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age... I don't want to be
the
like...
upper bracket, yeah.
Foley with, 12-year-olds.
Can I make a prediction for you?
Yes.
I say you have one more marriage in you.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. I'm sure Melania will love to hear that.
No.
I want to pull up again what he said. In a disturbing resurfaced 2006 audio clip, Donald Trump says he has no age limit for sleeping with girls and claims he'd only stop at 12-year-olds. Brian Allen writes, let that sink in. This is the same man blocking the Epstein files, the same man demanding trust, the same man lecturing America about morals, and they defend him. Claims that he'd only stop at 12. I don't want to be sleeping with 12-year-olds. What was the age of the woman who has now since credibly accused Donald Trump? How old was she? 13. And lo and behold, the New York Times decided to wake up out of their self-imposed coma and actually report on what NPR and MS Now reported on yesterday. They decided, oh, maybe we shouldn't just allow independent journalists like Roger Sullenberger, who broke the story initially, then NPR jumped on it, then MSN Now. Now, the New York Times is like, woo, what is this thing called news and journalism? Breaking news. The Justice Department did not release key records in the Epstein files about a woman who made an unverified accusation against Donald Trump in which she said assaulted her in the 1980s when she was a minor. The vast trove of documents released by the Justice Department from its investigations into the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein failed to include some materials related to a woman who made an accusation against Trump. Oh, and this is funny. According to a review by the New York Times, a review of an investigation that was done by Roger Sullenberger and NPR, but reviewed by the New York Times. Bravo for being fourth. The materials are FBI memos summarizing interviews the Bureau did in connection to claims made in 2019 by a woman who came forward after Epstein's arrest to say she had been sexually assaulted by both Trump and the financier decades earlier when she was a minor. The existence of the memos were revealed in an index listing the investigative materials related to her account, which was publicly released. According to that index, the FBI conducted 4 interviews in connection with her claims and wrote summaries about each one. But only one of the summaries which describe her accusations against Epstein was released by the Justice Department. The other 3 are missing. The public files also do not include the underlying interview notes, which the index also indicates are part of the file. The Justice Department released similar interview notes in connection to FBI interviews with other potential witnesses and victims. But they covered that one up, hoping that, again, no one would notice. And what Representative Garcia, who is the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, has said is that, the DOJ is engaged in an illegal cover-up that goes against the Epstein Transparency Act. Meanwhile, while Donald Trump was holding on to that podium for dear life and hoping to God that his kenkles didn't give out on him, what follows his State of the Union address? A series of shockwaves. Bill Gates apologizes to foundation staff over Epstein ties. And in this apology, dear friends, he admits to sleeping with 2 Russian women, he refers to them as, but we're pretty much certain now that it was Russian girls that he was raping and then received allegedly an STD from, which he gave allegedly to his wife, and then allegedly tried to dose her with medication without her knowledge, so that she didn't know that she was sleeping next to a fucking pedophile creep scumbag. So he offers up an apology to his staff at his front of a philanthropy. And why do I say that it's a front? Because let's just be clear. Bill Gates is involved in some schemes. Okay? Most notably using his philanthropic arm as a way to not pay taxes, because we all know what happens with philanthropy, right? They're kind of a protected group in the same way that, churches are. And he just most notably, his companies were kicked out of European nations, and these are the places that he is seeding to be able to create lab meat and then use his power and influence to make certain that the lab meat that he is creating won't be labeled, so people won't know what they're actually eating. And you see, they don't play that in Europe, but in the United States, he has been given carte blanche to do whatever the fuck he wants. Forever chemicals, lab meat, who cares? So long as Bill Gates makes money while other people, I'm certain, in the years to come, our cancer rates will continue to skyrocket. He's a scumbag piece of shit who manipulated the public into believing that he was one of the good guys. And that is the most disgusting of all. Is that myself included? I said, when I was leaving college, I wanted to work at the Gates Foundation as an educator, the opportunity to work on education policy that would affect not only children in this country, but he was incubating really interesting advances in education. What I believed was going to close the equity gap. And this is who this man is revealed to be decades later. On top of which, head number 2 rolled today. Larry Summers will resign from Harvard after Epstein revelations. Summers, former president of the school, had stepped back from teaching after documents showed a closer relationship to Epstein than previously known. He will leave at the end of the academic year because what did the emails show is that he was neck deep in communicating with Jeffrey Epstein following his conviction in 2008, calling on Epstein to help him get women, or rather girls, getting advice from, the man that was convicted of sex trafficking and pedophilia on how you manage your relationships. Predators don't have relationships. They have victims. He's out. Next up, number 3 of the heads that rolled today, Columbia Brain Institute co-director and Nobel laureate steps down over Epstein ties. Richard Axel said in a statement that he will resign as co-director of the Zuckerman Mind Brain Behavior Institute. Folks, can you just think about the titles and the spaces that these powerful men have occupied, who Jeffrey Epstein had on speed dial, a Nobel laureate scientist, Dr. Axel, who worked on, what is it again? Mind-brain behavior? I guess that would be really helpful if you're a predator and you're trying to control and groom young girls. Richard Axel said in a Tuesday statement that he will resign as co-director of the Zuckerman Mind Brain Behavior Institute to focus on his own research and teaching. He marks the latest in a string of public figures in the US and in Europe, including academic leaders who have stood down from senior positions after their links to Epstein were revealed in the millions of files released by the Justice Department related to the disgraced financier. Axel was a longstanding contact of Epstein's and appears in or is mentioned more than 900 of those files, is mentioned more than 900 times. And listen to this, because this was the bullshit that Axel wrote. Quote, "My past association with Jeffrey Epstein was a serious error in judgment, which I deeply regret. I apologize for compromising the trust of my friends, students, and colleagues." I wonder if he regrets it 900 times. Do you regret it, Dr. Axel? Or do you just regret getting caught and now being associated with the Epstein syndicate? And clearly, I'd love to know what their conversations were about, wouldn't you? Axel added, what has emerged about Epstein's appalling conduct, the harm that he has caused to so many people, makes my association with him all the more painful and inexcusable. Yeah. Because you, of course, had no idea, right? No idea over the 900 times that you were in correspondence with this known sex trafficking pedophile. You had no idea what he was up to. You had no idea why this man would want to be in association with you, a Nobel laureate who deals with minds and behavior and control. So interesting. Also, just so amazing how stupid they think we all are. Or they just don't care, right? They just don't care about our thoughts and our opinions because we don't breathe the same air as this higher echelon of power does. We're not in the same rooms. This is rare air. It's so sick and so twisted. So just think about the fact that the day after it is revealed that Donald Trump allegedly sexually assaulted and physically assaulted a 13-year-old girl who is mentioned tens of thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times. Donald Trump, the only other person mentioned more in the Epstein files than Donald Trump is Jeffrey Epstein. So while investigations are being opened in France and Poland and Norway, in the UK, while people are resigning and losing their titles and their positions and their power, in this country, we talk about, these girls, they were just the barely legal types. It's not like they were 8 or 9. Direct quote from Megyn Kelly. It's not like Epstein was doing anything wrong. He was like a sex rabbi. Quote from Jesse Waters of Fox News. So while other countries are taking it very seriously and are wanting to get to the bottom of how their nationals were involved in these crimes, as the UN reported it, against humanity, here in America, business as usual. Here in America, it's more concerning that Representative AOC doesn't know if Venezuela is above or below the equator. That's going to be the determining factor on if she should be considered for president. Donald Trump is a pedophile and a convicted rapist. Adjudicated rapist, excuse me. Lecturing the country on morals? And we're just all at business as usual in America? And meanwhile, while all of this is happening, while all of this is unfolding, we do know that the House of Representatives, under the hand of Speaker Mike Johnson, Fisher-Price Speaker Mike Johnson, is trying to do away with women's ability to vote, right? With the SAVE Act. that passed the House of Representatives and is probably going to pass the Senate, and Donald Trump will sign it into law that says that you need to show 2 proofs of citizenship, your birth certificate with your name and a passport, which 40% of Americans don't even have, to be able to vote. And if your name doesn't match on those documents with the name that is in your voter registration, then guess what? You can't vote. And guess who? Just guess who the SAVE Act will disenfranchise? Women. Guess who the right wing doesn't think should vote or have bodily autonomy? Women. Because guess who changes their names when they get married? Women. Don't believe me? I want you to listen to this account by a woman named Ashley Cann. Brian Krasenstein had posted and said multiple women are reporting similar things in Texas. Texas right now in the midst of a really important primary and a really important race for the Senate that could change the balance of power. And they're saying that their voter registration is in suspense. What does that mean exactly? Take a listen. And once again, please hold.
This yesterday, a lot of people are asking me what happened. So basically I go in there to vote like I always have throughout my whole life. This is the exact same polling place I went to in
Uh-oh. Am I back? Can you see me? Folks, I find this absolutely hilarious that this always happens. And folks are like, don't want to believe in Mercury retrograde, which starts today. I don't even understand how this is still running because my entire computer just shut down as I was trying to show you the video of what happened in Texas. let's see if we can run this back. If you all are with me, we're going to try to see, and tell me in the chat, because again, the chat is not showing me people, so I have no idea if folks are here. So let's try it again. So this is Ashley Can. I'm going to try and show the video. She is having difficulty and found out when she went to go vote in the primary in Texas that her registration was in suspense. So let's see if we can hear from her herself and her experience. We'll try it one more time.
Post this yesterday, a lot of people are asking me what happened. So basically I go in there to vote like I always have throughout my whole life. This is the exact same polling place I went to in 2024 to vote. I hadn't changed my address. I haven't done anything differently than my husband. When I go to vote, they said my voter registration was in suspense. For those that don't know what this means, that means someone personally challenged my ability.
What is happening here? Well, that was a disaster, and we will not be trying to run that video back again. So for those that are still here, God bless you for sticking around for me to try and come back. Essentially, what was being said is that this woman goes in, tries to vote, and is flagged for having her registration in suspense. What does that mean exactly? It means that someone personally flagged her voter registration to say that she was ineligible to vote in that county. And even though she then shows up with 2 years worth of proof that she has been living in that county, it does not matter. What she says in the video is that without a representative's help, without her congressperson's help, she's not going to be able to vote. And they told her, well, you can have like a provincial ballot, but we don't know if your vote will count. Why does she think that this is suspicious? She thinks that it's suspicious because she has, over the last few years, become more vocal about her disagreements and her disapproval of Donald Trump. Her husband, who is not on social media, has the same address, the same last name. Guess what? Nothing has happened to him, and he was able to vote just fine. And so, what is this proving? It is proving that, regardless of the SAVE Act having actually been signed into law yet, is that there are ways that people are being flagged in the voter registration system in these battleground states and being targeted for their political opinions and their vote not count. Texas has the opportunity to potentially be flipped blue in the Senate. The race between Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett in this Democratic primary, what it is showing, and I'm not going to try and play another video. I am going to try and pull up the last slide that I had, though, that I wanted to show you all, which is Harry Enton. And I encourage everyone to go and watch Harry's video. But because of how things are working today, I'm not even going to try and play it. Harry reports today that he is mind blown about the early vote in Texas. Texas Democrats may outvote the GOP for the first time in a midterm primary since 2002. This indicates they're well on their way to having higher primary turnout nationally. And since 2006, with the party, a higher primary turnout won the House every time. So don't we think then, friends, that it is wildly convenient that right as Texas Democrats have gained momentum and are outvoting their GOP counterparts in the primary, that all of a sudden women in the state of Texas who are showing up to vote are finding that they don't have the ability to vote? And the other thing that Ashley said is, oh, I thought that the SAVE Act was supposedly for illegals and the undocumented so that they couldn't vote. But now all of a sudden, they're recognizing who the SAVE Act is really for. And it is to disenfranchise women, namely white women. So for the white women who voted with Donald Trump in 2016, voted again, increasingly so for him in 2020, and then came out again in higher numbers in 2024. Your husbands, your boyfriends, your partners, your daddies don't want you to vote and don't think that you deserve the right to vote. And as a matter of fact, think that you should stay your ass home and make as many white babies as possible, particularly white men, and shut your mouth and your mind off. They are already rolling out the Handmaid's Tale for all of y'all. And it's just wondering whether or not those women will wake the fuck up before it's too late and the only thing hanging in their closet is the red cloak. Just a thought here. Thank you so much, my friends, for hanging in with me through the technical difficulties. And we're going to be combating Mercury retrograde for the next 3 weeks. So hold on to your hats, double check your emails, your messages, your texts, your technology, and just maybe slow down a little bit. I'm saying that to all of you and to myself out loud. Before I get out of here today, I do want to thank the super stickers and super thanks. Real Talk, thank you so much for the $5. Appreciate you. Eternal Energy, thank you so much for the music and for the $4.99. And Greg, thank you so much today for the $20. As I say, folks, This show, this channel is people powered. Without all of you, I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do. It is why I keep my content free, because I believe that critical thinking dies behind a paywall. But if you do have the ability to become a paid subscriber of my YouTube channel or a paid subscriber of the Damn Digest, do consider doing so. But if not, don't worry about it, dear friends. Just like, comment, and subscribe. Feed the algorithm and help me get this channel into as many feeds as possible. I will see you all back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Do make sure to check out my Substack if you have not already, the Damn Digest, dear friends, because I have the midweek check-in with Wajahat Ali that is up right now. I have the check-in with Jared Yates Sexton that is up right now on the Damn Digest. I appreciate each and every single one of you for showing up as you do, and we're keeping each other sane. This is what Damnation is all about. Power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe.